Hey guys, welcome back to today's video, and today more Skyrim, but Baldur's Gate will probably be next, hopefully. But today I got a handful of mods that I know you guys will most likely love. So if you do end up enjoying enough, make sure you hit the like button down below and maybe subscribe if you're feeling quite generous today, because it is free. But before we dive in, there is one thing I wanted to say. It is that time of the month where I start my free giveaway. All you have to do is comment on my Patreon post so that I can enter your name in the giveaway. No requirements, no payments are needed. All you have to do is comment and then you have a chance to win $75 US. But on Steam or console Game Pass, not real money because I can't do that. More info will be posted on my Patreon at the time of entry, which should be at the time of this video's release. But with that long intro out the way, let's dive right in. First mod of today is Skytactics, Dynamic Combat Styles. This mod, based on the enemy and the weapon type that the enemy is using to fight you, will now fight using their advantages, which usually end up being their numbers, honestly. Just like the combat mod, Combat Pathing Revolution, with this mod enemies will now circle you instead of all charging you at one time and attacking at the same time. Now, as I mentioned, they will circle you and attack when the opportunity arises. They will no longer all attack you at the same time. And they will no longer also power attack just to get close to you, because if you use Scar, then you know that they do that 24/7, and it kind of gets boring after a while because you know it's coming. Now instead, the enemies will run towards you if they have smaller weapons, or approach you slowly if they have two-handed weapons. They'll still power attack to get close to you a little bit, but that's just to catch you off guard. To test this mod's efficiency, I actually disabled Combat Pathing Revolution, and this might work just better. And I'm not saying it's better because of mechanics, they're pretty much almost the same, but because it uses Skypatcher to distribute these AI changes to NPCs, you will now see more diversity in the way that they fight, and you'll also see a lot of smarter NPCs without a lot of conflicts. Another plus of this mod is that it works on all versions of Skyrim. So I highly recommend giving this mod a try, because now you don't need more complicated mods to make enemies harder to fight. Up next, a new massive overhaul to Bleak Falls Barrow. This new mod is called Bleak Falls Barrow Overhaul version 2. And just like the first version, this one overhauls the exterior of Bleak Falls Barrow, adding more enemies to the exterior of the location and clutter to make it seem like they just got there and needed to set up camp, rather than treating it like any other bandit camp and them just guarding every single area. But what's different about version 2 is the massive changes that it makes to the interior of Bleak Falls Barrow. I did do a before and after for the main entrance, but if you're familiar with even 1 hour of Skyrim, then you know this place like the back of your hand, and you can instantly recognize just how much this mod changes this interior. It doesn't per se make it feel like a completely new dungeon, so much so that you have to relearn the area because otherwise you get lost, but it does change the interior so much that it feels new to look at. There's new areas to explore and loot for you to level up more, and also a lot more enemies to fill those new areas. This mod really adds on to the fact that Bleak Falls Barrow isn't really a new place, and the fact that it's not a beginner dungeon at all like many like to believe. I also really love the fact that there is more cave additions added to Bleak Falls Barrow, because Bleak Falls Barrow never really made sense that it looks so perfectly brand new and intact, especially with raiders to this place every now and then. So Bleak Falls Barrow with this mod will now look a lot more withered and destroyed. Of course, that also depends on your textures. There at the time of me recording isn't a Lux patch right now, but honestly it already looks pretty good, so I'm not sure it really needs one. It might be a little bright for me because I love creepy interiors that are super dark and hard for me to see while fighting, but I definitely add this to my list if I wasn't trying to stay under 1,000 mods for now, at least until I upgrade my PC. And while we're on the subject of overhauls, another massive one, this mod is called Watchman's Valtheim Towers. Let me know if I said that right down in the comments. But this, as you can see, is a complete rework of this location, adding an outer barricade to the location that gives warnings to anyone that may want to cross the road. Originally in Skyrim, it looks pretty friendly, and you can always find ways around a forced encounter, but with this, you're going to need to prepare for a fight, or just avoid this location entirely. New enemies were added to fill up the newly added location, so it isn't so empty, but not so many that you'll have to fight 20 bandits at once and get overwhelmed if you don't have 5 people in your party. And they're all spaced out pretty nicely. It feels as though these bandits have been here for a while, or maybe people before them. I'm not entirely sure of the lore of this location, but this mod definitely feels like it adds on to it, especially with the new additions added by it, such as a brand new interior. I am a little late to showcasing this mod, but there isn't a Lux patch for it yet, but by the time this video comes out there probably will be one, considering this might be my new favorite overhaul for this location. But of course that's biased. This new interior is pretty small though. It gets straight to the point of why bandits most likely stayed out of this place, because it's filled with joggers. Up next, a new mod for NPCs, but a new clothing mod. This mod is named Immersive Outfits for RS Children. This mod uses spell perk item distributor to give almost every named child in Skyrim new outfits, at least to match their ranking in society and their personality, at least in my opinion. So you will see orphans wearing more tavern-like and battered clothing, while nobles will wear very fancy clothing. But as I said, it still greatly fits their personality. This mod kinda surprised me because most mods now in 2024 as we head towards the end of it is using Skypatcher for this type of distribution. But spell perk item distributor still works and it's shown here. I did not test if this works with Children of the North by Lillison since that requires RS Children. But I mean, this is meant for RS Children so it might. This mod comes with all the textures provided inside the mod, so nothing is really required to get this mod to work besides spell perk item distributor. Because technically, even though it's in the title, this doesn't require RS Children. You just need some type of skin texture for children or it might end up hurt. But now we got some gameplay mods, and the first one up is a mod called Watch Your Step. This mod takes advantage of an already big trap mod named Traps Need Trappy Reality to add a snare trap to your Skyrim, and upon getting close to one and triggering it, it will grab your character's ankle, lifting you up in the air. And after a few seconds, your character will start trying to free themselves, and a QTE will happen where you have to push W or up on the keypad as fast as possible. Honestly, if every bandit is dead around you, you really don't have to rush this. It lasts quite a while, and you only need about 10 pushes of the key. But if you're surrounded by enemies, you're pretty much guaranteed to die when you get hit by this. You can also disable the trap if you catch it on time. I mean, it's pretty hard to miss unless you're in the middle of combat and just happen to step into one. Fun fact though, enemies can also get hit by this, which works great for fighting bosses if you need time to heal. But warning, if you hit enemies while they are in this trap, visual glitches will happen, like their leg might break and bend towards their head, rather than still being in the trap, and it's honestly terrifying. Otherwise it works perfectly. Another cool point about this mod is that the trap kinda works like enemy detection. You can't stealth past it, but if you have enemy detection turned off a console, the trap won't activate at all. The only bad part about this mod in my opinion is that it requires Flora's new idols, which Pandora can't use for users like me, so I had to switch to Nemesis just to try this mod, but otherwise this is definitely worth it. Up next is Skyrim Fantasy Overhaul Fantastic City Walls, adding new walls and buildings along those walls for the 4 major cities of Skyrim. I would have done befores and afters, but honestly it's pretty impossible for you not to see the difference that this mod is making, and it's pretty massive. So I chose not to waste your time. Every city is different with this mod. It doesn't just add a border around the entire city for every city, so it'll be kinda boring. It takes into account how the walls of the city originally are and expands on them by adding its own special touch. This is very much a fantasy style of walls, basically turning them into medieval style castles. This mod definitely takes a different approach to what we know as Skyrim, but I don't think that's necessarily bad. While this might not be everyone's taste, it definitely still looks great in my opinion, at least for what it's trying to do. Because besides just adding stuff onto the walls of the city, it's also making changes to those walls to fit the changes so things don't clip and they look perfect. But as I said, this is definitely going to be for certain people that at least aren't afraid to try something new for their Skyrim. I would advise to at least give this one a try. Maybe you don't like it and remove it, but at least you can say you tried it. Because at first I really didn't expect much with this, but after adding it in my game, and as you can see looking at it with Whiterun, it was beautiful. Best part is that I really didn't notice any changes to my FPS. It did hurt a little, but I used Nature of the Wildlands. Of course I'm going to be hurt by my Skyrim, but I think it worked great for lower end PCs. Up next, a new quest mod called Gravewind, which I'll try my best not to spoil too much of. To start this quest, you need to find a cemetery house that is not too far from Falkreath. But you might want to make sure that you come prepared because you're going to be here for a while. Once you enter this house, like I said, there will be no going back. You'll discover new enemies that fill this maze-like location and will challenge you. Because while they might not have much health at all, they definitely do a lot of damage. If this place wasn't so bright, fighting one of these shades would be absolutely terrifying. I even had a jump scare, but that's probably because it was 2 AM when I was recording. There are quite a few monsters here, so you might need a party or you'll have to retrace your steps after you die. But if you time your attacks, they really shouldn't be that much of a threat. The biggest threat is getting lost in this location, because the only way you're going to be able to escape is by finding the boss of this location, which might just be a victim like you. And then once you fight them, which will be pretty hard because they are nothing like the Shades previously, but once you fight them and beat them, you'll be able to escape this home. But escaping is just the beginning of this quest. Once you leave, you'll notice you definitely did not escape back to Skyrim. Instead, you entered a new world that will trap you here forever, and then that's when you notice the Shades are nothing but past people who were trapped here, and now you're here with them. And I believe over time they lost their sanity because they never die and they can never escape. They just go back to their graves where they sit with their broken will. Even though this place might not be as gloomy or as scary as the Soul Cairn, but this place feels worse for some reason. Maybe it's the fact that they got trapped in this world without ever knowing what happened or without ever having to die. Nonetheless, I will give no further spoilers for this, but like I said, you need to come prepared and you will have to fight for your life to get out of this land. And I don't believe whoever owns this land is going to make it easy for you. Side note though, the purple textures probably bother me the most about this because I'm a modder and that feels like something is broken, but I believe it's on purpose, and that just adds to the horror for me. But that was it for today guys. Let me know which of these selected mods is your favorite or which ones you would try. But as of right now, don't forget to endorse mod authors, and hope you all have a great rest of your day. Peace and love guys.